All right, everybody, welcome to the Dune Over episode 3. Today we're doing chapters 5 through 8. We're also having some accountability issues. I am Dan, your host, with Jennifer. Comics Will Break Your Heart at Comics Will Break Your Heart, or Comics Will Break Your Heart on YouTube.
Instagram.
Comics Will Break Your Heart's on YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube. You're right. Thank you for.
Yeah. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. And we have the Edge Lord Syd with us at Cartoon Syd on Twitter and Insta and things. And we have Cidnya, the biology queen.
I hate it. I hate biology so much. It's so dumb. I read so much.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
I read about photosynthesis today, and I read nothing for Dune.
I think that, I had mentioned in one of the first or second episode, whichever one it was, that like Dune, as much as it's a political book, is technically also a book about environmentalism. So like you're doing the real work here. So you could probably teach us about, the ecology of the planet Arrakis.
Well, I did learn a lot of stuff about products and reactants of photosynthesis and ATP and energy replenishment. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I was last minute reading this because I was suffering from bad exhaustion most of today and the rest of the week.
I feel like for me, I felt like it was a little bit of both because I read like the first the first chapter like Saturday. I read it like Wednesday, like days and days and days ago, and I'm like, I have time. I've already read a chapter. I'm good. And then I literally just read the remaining chapters this hour. So it's fresh.
There's a chapter for me that was a clunker. I don't know if I was just overtired or I was just like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
I had it planned. I was like, I'm going to do my biology homework, and then I'm going to do my like humanities, like essay writing, and then I'll like read Dune, and then I'll have time in between like the chapter reading and thing. But then I had I didn't drink any caffeine today. So until like 4 p.m, I couldn't do anything because I was having a migraine, and I finally like got a soda, and I was like, okay, I can do stuff. And then I did my work, and then I was texting Dan. I was like, I haven't read anything yet. Have you read anything? Because I haven't read anything.
If it makes you feel better, I tried to change out my bathroom faucet and realized I didn't have the tool to take the nut off underneath. So now I have to have everything disconnected for another day.
Oh no.
And go to my work on my day off to pick up a tool, which
I don't know if that's good or bad water discipline.
I think it's great.
I guess technically
not using any water.
See, there you go. So good. That's good water discipline, Dan.
It's environmentally sound.
Mm-hmm. Now, what you just need to do is just fashion yourself a still suit and use your body's water.
But I can't wash my hands in this still
all
suit.
coming together.
Yeah.
I have to do my 20 seconds while doing the litany.
Yeah, exactly.
I have been doing that ever since you guys mentioned that it's the proper length.
And I'm wearing my Spice Must Flow shirt
hand
I bought.
washing, tons of fun.
Oh, hell yeah.
Very nice.
So there was Duke Leto in these chapters.
Boy, was there.
He wasn't in the first chapter. Was he in the first chapter?
No, chapter 6, because chapter 5 was Dr. Wellington Yue.
Yue.
Oh, yeah, and he has his total drama freak out.
Yes.
But then, yes, the appearance of the husband at last, at long last.
As Jessica keeps describing him at end, his angular features, his olive skin.
Oscar is a great choice.
Wood smoke gray eyes, tall.
And yet Dr. Yue has a square head.
Yeah.
And a buttery complexion? Was that
purple lips.
Yeah.
Like how sexy is that not? How maybe Wanna escaped on her own.
It's possible. And they also keep talking about how his like mustache dangles are like flip-flopping all over the place.
He's basically Salvador Dali.
I would think Salvador Dali was a lot
less
sexier.
expressive. Yeah.
The mustache.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
Except, no, I don't think so, because I think Salvador Dali had a very erect mustache.
Ooh, yeah.
And the one we're speaking about now is limp.
So it's like hot, not. That's how we gonna.
Whap, dap.
Yeah.
Nicely. So yes, he's quite ugly. That's neither here nor there, because Duke Leto is gorgeous. He's described many times as being incredibly attractive by any number of people in the book.
And outside of the book.
Deserves.
They also talk about his two personalities.
Yes, the Duke is really two people.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, personalities?
Yes.
I missed so
where
much.
he is this charming, introspective person when he's alone, but when he's among the people, he's basically a very stern dick.
Yeah.
And his father did that to him.
In the second chapter, there's like a moment between him and Jessica, and maybe I didn't
It's frantically
realize
scrolling.
I'm not sure if I had picked this up in like the reads that I had done before, but it mentioned several times within the chapters that he bought her. And I don't know why that never resonated with me before. Like, I knew that she was a concubine. I knew that she was part of the, like, Bene Gesserit, but I didn't realize that he bought her, that he basically, like, sent people to go and, like, purchase her for him. I don't know why I never caught that in the first reads, but that was surprising, because I feel like I always remembered the relationship between Lady Jessica and Duke Leto, whatever. I remembered it as more like caring and loving, and in this reading, it felt very cold.
Apparently, she calls herself a secretary.
Yeah, secretary concubine.
Yeah, but she is like when she's explaining it to. I have no idea how I'm meant to say this name out loud. The Fremen servant that gives her the kryptonite.
Mapes.
Shout out Mapes. I always want to say shout out. Like, I'm going to shout it out. But
I say it like that in my head as well. Shout out Mapes.
Shout out
Mapes.
Mapes, good old Mapes. She's explaining to Mapes. Like she calls her noble born or something like that, and she's like, just call me lady, I'm not noble born.
Yeah.
I'm the Duke's bound concubine. And she's like, oh, so there's a wife then? And she's like, there is not, and there never has been.
Never will be.
I am the mother of his heir designate. She is like proud of it, you know?
And that they did it for a very political reason, basically to give any other house hopes of possibly wooing the Duke over, or for political alliance. So it's very like, this really like goes into the Bene Gesserit, their political, they understand it, and they always use it to their advantage. They're always thinking those like several steps ahead. And
they also seed religious messiah stories to all these other planets, so if they ever have to go there.
Hundreds and hundreds of years in advance.
Yeah. We got a bit of that missionary protectiva, and Jessica just kind of like running with it, right?
Also, is it kind of like glib that the Duke keeps a picture on one end of the dining room of his dad wearing a matador outfit, and then the other end has the bloody bull that gored him to death?
Wow, sounds like daddy issues.
Yeah, and like at one point, like Jessica's like, "Hey," and he goes, "No, we're hanging it up."
Oh, don't even get me started on him telling her no.
I can't tell if you were like disgusted or excited.
Very excited. I wish he would tell me no. I wish he would revoke my permission.
And he plays that game too, because he's like, I'm telling her firmly, yet still kind of lovingly, like playfully, I'm going to tell her no, but I know that she's not going to defy me. So he's playing some power trip games with her.
Yeah. But I mean, look at the position these two powerful people are in, right? Of course, there's like, oh, what was the thing? I think it was the Duke talking about it when he talks about going to Arrakis, and he's like a feint within a feint within a feint, or something like this. It's like that with all of these people, right? But then you also get, because of the like omniscient point of view, you see both of them like kind of longing for the other person. Like the Duke is like, if only it was you and I alone somewhere, and then he like stomps off like a very stern man.
Yeah.
Also, he plays that game with Paul as well. Like, well, so you're going to be a mentat. He goes, well, you have to be trained since you were a kid. But if you knew you were being trained, and he's like,
oh,
let me think about this. I have a question, even though I didn't read, but I guess this will be like Spark Notes. This is like Spark Notes.
Yeah.
Right here, right now. When you said a feint, is the repetition from Herbert always in threes? Because like I remember when we were our previous readings, that a lot of the things that I was like, oh, it's like coming back. It seemed like a lot of them were in threes, which I would assume would be like referential to like, you know, like Trinity stuff.
That way.
Could be.
Yeah. Because there's maybe reference to plans within plans within plans.
And the in the first couple of chapters when like Paul is dreaming of Arrakis, it was like Arrakis, like the desert planet, like something else, and that like it was. I marked it. I remember like writing in it. I was like, oh, this was said 3 times in this in the chapter. That's kind of weird, because I was like, maybe it means something or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But now I think I'm on to something.
I think you are too. Because I've never caught that. And that's like, I feel like there's going to be more things in the next chapters that like, I see that 3.
Well, also like the Duke goes into his plans of now that he'll have the spice, he wants to have his own Sardaukar, basically, which is the Imperial army. And, you know, he knows where they come from, basically hell on earth. And that's why they're so hardened and vicious. So he is like, well, I'll woo the Fremen, and the Fremen will become my own Sardaukar, and be his power play, because he's like, eventually, there's these people who have been stockpiling spice, like the Harkonnen, the Corrinos, and he's like, they will try and basically use the market. It gets into a real political, like, economic thing for a bit, and he's basically seeing the play happening. That's why he's like, I know it's a trap. I know this trap is a trap, and this is my plan to kind of use the trap against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very extreme BDE in that scenario of him explaining to Paul, like moment by moment, like everything that he knows that the Harkonnens are doing, everything that's involved with the Emperor, everything that he's planning to do to counteract that. He's incredible.
So I had a question about the Duke. What type of dad jokes would he tell? Like, that's because I feel like he would be that dad that would be really, really stern, but he would have some really good dad jokes. Like, what are some Dune dad jokes that could be told?
I feel like he'd go like directly for puns and nothing else.
Yeah.
Like very dry puns.
The Harkonnens would always be like the end joke somehow.
Yeah.
From where I'm sitting, it's like that John Mulaney sketch where like John Mulaney's dad would be like, y'all want McDonald's, and he'd get everyone excited, and then when he'd go, he'd order like a hot coffee for himself and then like leave.
Yep.
That's like the energy he's giving me. Like that's his idea of a joke.
I mean, extreme power move for sure.
Yeah.
He'd also be the one who like he'd tell the joke, go ha, and then just walk out of the room and be like, nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
That would be his thing. Because like even like he shows like a little bit of emotion to like Paul, and he like even like in his mental thing where Paul's kind of telling him what the plan is, and he goes, "My son's really smart." That's
Yeah,
good.
he has that moment of fatherly pride. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, my boy,
That came from me.
yeah, I made that."
I made that. I feel like they're like that first chapter was an extreme like info dump too. Like there was a lot of talk about Chome and the freight liners and I feel like it was a lot to get through that first one. So I'm glad I read that one days ago instead of today.
Oh man, I would have died if I actually read that stuff. Like after bio and humanities homework, I would have been like, nah.
When he's telling Paul, he's like, "You're not going to mess with the navigators. You're not going to look for them. You're just going to stay quiet because we need them."
Yeah, you're just going to stay in your room.
That was a very cute, I thought, boyish thing from Paul because he's like such an adult, you know, but he was like, "Well, I'm going to watch them on the screens."
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're not.
Well, Dr. Yue's like, "He's asleep. I knocked him out." I'm like, "Wait, you drugged him to go to sleep?
Yeah.
What is going on?"
It's normal.
Dr. Yue's got some like interesting like his meltdowns when Paul like he gives Paul a Bible.
Meltdown. Yeah. The OC
and then Paul
Bible.
starts reading the Bible and he's just like freaks out. He's like,
"No!
That was Juana's chapter."
Yeah, that was Juana. Why did he get Juana? And then he's like, "Oh, calm down, bitch. Like it was just because she had like thumbed that page and it just naturally opened, but
take it easy, man.
It annoys me that they're just putting the whole plot out there. Like if they had left it all a secret of who was going to be the betrayer, I feel like it would be a little bit better. But of course, Irulan's got her like beginning of chapter thing that just like throws it right out there.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how they're going to do this in the movie because in the David Lynch version, and I can't remember the sci-fi series if it did this, but in the book, it's very much you get to hear people's internal thoughts, and that's how like Yue's motive for betrayal. So that, like, are they going to keep that in the movies where we hear people's internal thoughts? Or do you think that they're going to do it more subtly, maybe do a little bit of like backstory or flashbacks to do that? Because I felt like that was one of the cheesier things of the movie was like, where you hear what they're thinking. I don't enjoy that movie.
I feel like the litany will be the only one.
Yeah, I've been a very big fan of like this film director, and he's been very into like foreshadowing like metaphors, like visually, and like character, like very vague character dialogue. That I feel like he'd probably like sneak it in, like if you know, but like easy to miss type of like symbolism and stuff like that. Just from like his like. Enemy and some of the other stuff I've seen of his. He's a very big fan of that.
I think that'll be almost a nod to people who've read the book, because obviously you have to appease the people who've actually read the source material, and we're going to be the ones who like hype the movie up, whether it deserves it or not ultimately, but we'll be the one that'll be like, "Hey, did you see that? Did you see that? That's this. Yeah. That's this."
Like all the Easter eggs, like those are for us. So stuff like that.
Also, we get the Paul questioning his prescience, where Duke Leto comes in and goes, "Well, you've been trained to be a mentat, whether you want to continue." And then Paul's going, "Is that my terrible purpose, to be a mentat?"
But then he's like, "Nah,
we'll see. No big deal."
Nah.
Two times in 2 sentences, he says my terrible purpose. Not infected though this time, but he mentions terrible purpose, where I don't remember on my first couple of read-throughs it being like in my head so much, the terrible purpose, unless now I'm just looking for it.
Well, it's like you notice it and then you keep noticing it,
Yeah. He says perhaps being a mentat is terrible purpose. I'm doing the Cidnya like fancy
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that makes me so happy.
I only have one color though because I'm not like that academic as you, but I felt very inspired.
Yay!
So yeah,
Yay!
I think that there was another time that whole terrible purpose. I don't see it here. I was really excited. Maybe this is just me, but I was really excited to see or to visualize the Chris knife.
Yes.
So whenever Jessica meets Shadout Mapes, kind of reveals why she's there. I won't give too much away for like Cidnya, but I mean, we've kind of already talked about it. But then she unsheathes a Chris knife and speaks about some of the legend and the lore behind it. And there's like a little bit of, I don't know if it's just advanced science, if it's magic, whatever it ends up being. But it's that the Chris knife, anytime it gets unsheathed, it has to draw blood, or else it needs to be cleansed.
So samurai swords, it's the same deal. It has to have touched blood to be resheathed or slain somebody. So he's stealing from other cultures yet again.
Oh, 100, like he's like, especially Middle Eastern culture, all the way.
When Mapes pulls her shirt open, she's like, do it. Do it.
Just do it all over my tits. I get that. I don't know. I get that feeling from Mapes. But I think that there's like, when I think about more of the, not just the symbolism behind it with the knife, but like I said, magic, because it has to be near human flesh or it will start dissipating within a week or several weeks. And
2 weeks away from flesh and it'll like disintegrate.
So there's like some type of like either magic, and there's a cleansing ritual that if someone who has seen a bare Chris knife and it didn't draw blood, they cannot leave Arrakis without being cleansed or killed. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just if someone outside of like the Fremen cult, like the Chris knife culture, if you will, sees an unsheathed Chris knife, they have to either die or be cleansed by it.
Yeah.
There's also the Lady Jessica game with Mapes where Mapes is going, do you know what this is? She's like, the maker of yes.
Yeah. Like there's a halfway guessing because she's going to say the maker of death. But as soon as she says the maker, shout out Mapes is like, you got it, bingo, and gets really excited. And because for her, this is like the purpose that, whether she knows it or not, like this is why she's there. This was set in motion generations before shout out Mapes, was that when someone like Jessica is coming here to do this, like that's how you know. So Jessica's playing, you're right, like she's playing that game of, I kind of halfway know the truth and I think I know what I'm doing, but thank God she believes in it, because I'm just halfway guessing at the answers.
We also get a little bit into how the Bene Gesserit can read body language, where she's like, you've killed people, you've done this, you've done that, and she's reading Mapes just her body language and how she's holding herself.
Like you've buried loved ones and you've born children, you've killed people, basically like you've seen some shit, Mapes.
Man, I love these Bene Gesserit, like scary witch ladies. Good for
the beginning of, I think it's chapter 6, the Irulan, from one of her many, many books. She goes, with Lady Jessica and Arrakis, the Bene Gesserit system of sowing implant legends through the Missionaria Protectiva came to its full fruition. The wisdom of seeding the known universe with a prophecy pattern for the protection of Bene Gesserit personnel has long been appreciated, but never have we seen a condition ut extremis with more ideal mating of person and preparation. Prophetic legends had taken on Arrakis even to the extent of adopted labels, including Reverend Mother, Canto, and Respondu, and most of the Shari Panoplia Propheticus. And it is generally accepted now that Lady Jessica's latent abilities were grossly underestimated.
Yeah.
And that's the secret Bene Gesserit document as well. That's not from one of her books.
No, it's from Analysis, the Arakeen Crisis by the Princess Irulan.
But underneath that, it says private collection BG file number AR810888587.
So it's a book that she wrote for.
I want the BG file. Can I get that?
Yeah.
BG file?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that's a Bene Gesserit document.
Yeah.
Rather than like a widely circulated book.
I missed that bottom part since I was half asleep.
Can I read my favorite beginning chapter?
Sure.
Yue goes the refrain. A million deaths were not enough for Yue from a child's history of Muad'Dib.
Yeah.
So like this, like talking about how however many people Yue had to do in a children's book. Yeah. I just thought that
pretty
was
vicious
adorable.
Kids book.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Princess Irulan.
She keeps it real.
She does keep it real. I appreciate it.
With her follow-ups, good night, Muad'Dib.
Yeah, good night, Muad'Dib. Good night, Chris Knife, who has to see blood before being sheathed.
Good night, Tyrant.
Good night, Sandworm.
Good night, Idaho.
Yeah, good night, Idahos.
Good night, Stilgar.
I feel like this could totally could be a children's book. But
just by Christopher Walken. Good night, Sandworm. Good night. How now, Chris Knife? How now?
I want a Chris Knife. Yeah, the description of the Chris Knife is awesome. It's like the milky white blade with like the deep like finger knobs. Mm-hmm. Like I think you mentioned before. Yeah,
but mine's a little bit more like
not very milky.
Not very milky, but I would say the
non-stabby
like that part,
like a bit like gnarled.
Yeah.
When Leto's like, do you kill with the point or? I know you found that erotic when you're like, oh, just stab me.
It's on the list. I mean, it's on the list. Yeah, he's Paul's talking to the Duke, and Paul's like, Gurney says you should always kill with the edge, not with the tip of the knife. And he's like, Gurney's a romantic. You kill any way you need to. Yeah. Tip or edge, it doesn't matter. Love that man.
And they're at the tip and the edge.
I feel like I'm trying to remember all of the things that we, like each chapter, I'm trying to like think of like, okay, so what did we like learn at the end of this chapter? Because I feel like I know so much having already read it. Like what did we specifically learn in these chapters? And like I said, I feel like the first chapter we read this week was a big info dump chapter.
Yeah. So we learn, of course, that Yue is the traitor, and we learn that it's because his wife might not be dead.
Spoiler alert, Cidnya.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's like, should I like? I'm not sure if I should just like hop off and then like watch when I'm done with my reading, or if I just like stay and like wallow in shame and spark note it.
Well, you're already 28 minutes. You're already 28 minutes in. Just...
Yeah, I guess I'm here. Yeah, spoiler away. Maybe because I feel so bad for not reading, but also it's like I have to get my homework done. Like I have to do it.
Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do. But so we learn about Yue and that his wife is his motivation for doing this horrible thing. We learn from the Duke, like the entirety of, well, most of the entirety of the trap on Arrakis. Like in very very explicit detail. Like it's very impressive how much he just like breaks down this trap that's been set for him, you know?
And just walking straight into it.
Oh yeah.
Willingly.
With plans. He's already sent Duncan. He's already working on it. Like, oh, and that's a very cute thing too. What do they call him? Duncan the Honorable? Duncan the Moral and Gurney the Valorous.
Oh wow. Very hot for them.
Classes. Yes. Love that for them.
So the one line that like immediately made me think of you was when they go, there's just the sadness about Duke Leto. He has a look of sadness.
Well,
and I think it was when he was exiting the room where they note
with
that
Paul?
when he was talking to Paul when he left the room, they make a note that he has like a look of sadness about him.
Darling.
And you said that, even in the trailer, though,
he looks sad.
Oscar Isaac had just that look of sadness. But I mean, I guess when you know you're walking into a trap, basically everybody's already saying you're dead.
Yeah, nothing for the father.
Yeah.
So we learn about that whole plan. we learn that not only is Paul possibly the Kwisatz Haderach, he's also possibly a Mentat. So there's two things.
Still terrible.
Wow, he's so special.
He's a special boy.
Yeah.
That's why he's
our
the
anime protagonist.
And so stoic. Even for 15 years old.
Let's see.
Jessica and Yue, that chapter with their conversing back and forth where he's like, how does this damn woman stay so calm? And then he's trying to like do his own breathing exercise because he's starting to like flip out.
And this is where we learned that his wife, who may or may not be dead, was or is a Bene Gesserit as well. And he is using, because in the conversation with Jessica, he's trying to like figure out her plans, but he's also, because he, we hear his thoughts, we know his thoughts, so we know that he has betrayal on his mind in order to get, back his wife, maybe. So we know that like in his mind that he's observing her, and he's like, well, how much am I telling her? I know she's a Bene Gesserit and my wife was one, and I'm going to use some of the tactics my wife showed me, or that like, I've learned from her to try to figure out what Lady Jessica's thinking. So there's this like, I feel like it was kind of an awkward back and forth between the two, because it's like, how much does each one know about one another? And he's like, okay, she's a crafty, scheming bitch. My wife was a crafty, scheming bitch. Like, I'm going to hustle the hustler. But that's rule number one. You can't hustle a hustler.
Yeah, when she leaves the room, she's like, he was hiding something from me for that entire conversation. But she convinces herself that it's like to protect her feelings about this like bad situation that they're in.
I think she says, I need to trust my friends more.
Yes.
Is the line that she uses. And
right
I was kind of surprised, because I'm like, bitch, you know better. Like, don't trust anyone. So I thought that, because that was the last chapter. Right?
Yeah.
That we read,
Damn Jessica and her damn emotions.
She describes
feelings.
Paul as having coal-colored and tousled hair. He has lime-toned eyes. And then the Duke starts describing Jessica at one point as being tall, slender,
dark bronze hair, I think.
Yes, that
or
goes
light
into
bronze
curves.
Hair.
And green eyes.
Stately looking.
Basically calling her a skinny bitch. He's like, I think it's something like, all the curves have left her.
Wide eyes.
Like, they called her skinny at the school, but he's like, it's not the proper word for it.
Wide-placed eyes that were green. Like, he's weirdly like, I'm like, this is the love of your life, and this is the description you're giving.
She got them wide eyes.
Ooh!
But she does say though, there's the man that his father raised, and then there's the other Duke.
And that was another thing, maybe like once again, just kind of catching this disdain that Jessica has for his father, because it's mentioning that she does not want this picture of him put up dressed as a matador, and then wherever the picture is, there has to be,
killed him.
And then the bull that killed him that still has his blood dried up on it has to be on the other side of the room, on the opposite side of the room, and that they've basically been lugging this shit around wherever they go, so it has to go up in the house. But then she's talking to Yue about him and the father, or maybe it's Shout Out Mapes who she's speaking with, but basically saying, man, if only that boar or bull had killed his father sooner so he wouldn't have fucked his kid up so much. So like we know that there's some daddy issues with Leto.
Yeah, I have a question. Is it hinted at that like Duke keeps that as a way to remind him, like, I don't know, not to get like cocky, because like traditionally Matador like fights and stuff like that is like oftentimes the only time you would ever get like rammed and like hit is because you were being cocky and you were being pompous and you thought you were hot shit and you weren't and you fucked up, because most of the time like you're not going into the ring with the idea of getting hurt. So I wonder if that's Duke like trying to keep himself at bay, like, I will not make the mistakes of my father. I mean, this is baseless in the sense that I didn't read it, but like symbolically, like that could be something that's there, especially when you talk about like politics and like dad issues and stuff like that.
Especially the way that he goes into like taking control of Dune, of the planet Arrakis, and he knows that it's a trap set for him, so he's basically like facing the boar himself. You didn't even read this, and you're analyzing it better than the rest of us here.
She also talks about his commanding voice. As he's walking, she hears him kind of barking orders. And
disdainfully.
Yes.
Ooh, what a good word.
So like,
disdain to me, please, my dude.
They respect him, but he's kind of talking like not down to them, but like forcibly.
Oh, I think he's talking down to them. I think that's pretty clear. She says like the way that he always talks to servants, like with disdain. Like,
yeah.
Also, there's the part where Yue is looking out the window, and the Fremen are staring at these date trees, and they talk about how the average human needs
5 liters.
5 liters, where this tree does 40 liters. Just one.
Like those 20 trees right there basically equal 100 humans, and Jessica's just like, what are you talking about? They just want some fruit to fall off the tree. And he's like, no, like you are basically telling these people, you're watering these fucking trees, and you're telling these people that those trees you're probably telling them that those trees have more worth than they do, because they're just like on display. They're ornamental. You don't need them, but that's literally 100 men you could be watering. Like these couple of chapters talk about subtly and not so subtly how important water is here. And I think in the 3rd chapter that we read, so what would that be? Chapter 6, 7, whatever it is. When we read that, and the Shadow Mapes is talking to Jessica and like kind of like walking around the castle,
don't even need a still suit here.
Whatever. Yeah, I don't even need a still suit to stay alive.
Wild.
Yeah, so like she talks about like these very subtle things that as political and skeeving, and how smart these people are coming to this planet. And even though the Duke wants the Fremen to be on his side, they still don't understand that they come from a place of privilege. They don't understand what it's actually like. It reminds me of Lucille Bluth. And she's like, how much could a banana cost? $10? Like,
yeah.
How much
go
water
see
does
a Star Wars? Yeah.
Here's some money. Go see a Star Wars. Like, so it's just that you don't know. You may think you know how to connect with those people because you've studied them, and you like send someone to go study them and be on their side. Well, we're not as bad as the Harkonnens, but you're still kind of shitty people. Like, you really don't understand how they live. So like, even just these little moments where they talk about the Fremen or they talk about the native Iraqians, how much they appreciate water, and these people are just fucking oblivious to it.
What your description reminds me of when I watched Midsummer, and there was the anthropologist character who was like, I'm so excited to be on this trip, and like I've studied like Hargarth like culture specifically for this, and the cult was like, okay, these are our things and our way of life, like please don't infringe on it. And then
of course they infringe.
Yeah, and then of course they infringe, but I think that's a very big trope in like any type of like imperialist or like colonization type of lens for media.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines that we read, or I don't know why, but I didn't tab it, but when Jessica is describing Thufir Hawat, where she goes, "Where Thufir Hawat goes, death and deceit follow." And Yui's like, "You malign him." She goes, "Malign? I praise him. Death and deceit are our only hopes now. I just do not fool myself about Thufir's methods." So you learn a little, and the Duke gets excited when he's like, "A Duke? That's a Mentat. How great is that?"
He's like, "Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my boy.
You came from my balls.
Yeah.
Just saying, kid.
Oh, Duke.
Like I say, hey, dude, sorry, I've got a cat right here, and he's being fussy. He's being fussy at me, and he's biting me. I'm petting him too much.
You deserve it.
I probably
How
do.
dare.
I'm overly aggressive with my petting. But
So I've heard.
Batman
barely 18.
Batman year 18, barely legal. Okay, get it right. I'm gonna write it. So DC, come at me. But the way that the Duke is portrayed is that I don't feel like he's very loving. Like, I still don't feel like and maybe it's just in the next couple chapters, but I don't see that like loving Duke yet.
That's what I feel might be from the father.
Yeah. Like, she talks about the two people, right? And one of them is very like charming and kind and like a considerate lover and all of this, and then the other one is like the Duke that everyone knows. You know, so I think it makes sense that we don't see that,
because he hasn't had that like a private moment with Jessica where they like, what?
I have to cover my eyes.
Push the hair back off of her forehead. If that's not tenderness, I don't know what is.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, because there's a part where the Duke's like, "Hawat tells me the Reverend Mother frightened you with warnings about Arrakis. Don't let a woman's fears cloud your mind." And I'm just like, wow, man. Like,
but he goes on to explain, he's like, they have these fears because they love us and they want our safety.
The hand behind those warnings was your mother's. Take this as a sign of her love for us. And then the Duke thought the truth could be worse than he imagines, but even dangerous facts are valuable if you've been trained to deal with them. And there's one place where nothing has been spared for my son, dealing with dangerous facts. This must be leavened, though he is young.
He's a good daddy. Oh, I also wanted to point out when Duke Leto was talking to Paul about the Freightliner going on the guild ship, and he's talking about how no one's ever seen a guildsman, Paul just guesses. He's like, is it because they're mutated from all the spice? Just out of nowhere.
That kind of sounds Mary Sue-ish, like how, this way, Jenna's been saying.
Like he is, I feel like there's a point to be made to say like, yes, the character is, that Paul Atreides is a Mary Sue, but then there's like another point that's like, well, the kind of subplot to this is that you shouldn't trust charismatic leaders, and that these people, like, maybe not necessarily in the Game of Thrones style of like morally gray characters, but I feel like there's a point to be made that's like, well, no, he's not actually a Mary Sue, but maybe.
I mean, you could classify him as that, sure. He's the child of destiny, right? Like,
yeah,
just inherently that. All right, it is 45 minutes in, and I feel like I have enough information that I can go read now.
Yes.
So I'm gonna dip so you guys can go like crazy. Is that okay? And then I'll watch the rest of the half.
That's fine. I think we already went crazy.
Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you guys say all of the horny stuff you want while I'm gone.
Finally, permission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mom's gone.
Next week, though, Next week, I'll be not doing biology homework and reading. Okay.
Sure,
I
sure.
don't know.
All right, bye guys.
Bye, Cidnya.
Bye. Oh, and they mentioned couple interesting things when Jessica's talking to Yue. They mentioned the old feud between the Harkonnens and the Atreides. I think it was
the Battle of Corinne that they were.
Somebody was like, oh, fuck, I don't remember. Somebody was dismissed, or something, right?
Yes, that is in the prequel series. They go into what caused the split because the Atreides and Harkonnens were great allies during the Jihad.
But not anymore.
And Atreides kind of pulled a dick move and threw Harkonnen under the bus.
Whatever, I support it.
And then cursed be the name Atreides after that.
I'm sure it was done out of necessity.
I do like how Duke calls it out. He goes, the Sardaukar will be disguised in Harkonnen livery or livery, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he already knows. He's like, there's going to be Sardaukar dressed as Harkonnens. Yeah. He fucking knows that. That's insane.
Yeah, like the whole time, like he's so ahead of the game. And he's still the one part he doesn't see.
I mean, you couldn't predict that because he has the conditioning, doesn't he?
Yes. And we're going way too ahead here, but we already know who the betrayer is.
Yeah. We don't know how it'll happen. And God, I cannot wait to read that bit. That's like, after the litany, probably my favorite quote in like this whole series is like during that bit. You know, the one up that he gives the Duke.
What chapter is that? When do we get there?
I don't know. I'm on the ebook.
It's I think right around the 200s because that's when that book 1 Paul ends, and then I have a feeling by then he's with the Fremen, so it's somewhere around there.
Yeah, it'll be after the raid on Arakeen. For sure.
There is in Children of Dune another litany that appears that I really liked, where Leto II's going, "My skin is not my own," and he's doing his own litany of having sand trout.
Yeah.
I don't know why I've been thinking about that book and God Emperor a lot lately. I don't know why. And maybe it's because of like we keep talking about terrible purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what it is, isn't it? Like, and I think it's
Paul runs from it. Leto goes headlong into it.
Yeah, I think it's in Children of Dune. When Paul's become the cryptid that he finally becomes, and basically admits that like the reason that he dipped out of this whole thing was that like he couldn't, like he's like, I couldn't do it, like I can't do the thing that needs to be done, you know, because it's like it's horrible. And Leto II's like, all right.
Well, you know, there's our crazy aunt, and we'll get to her. Oh, we'll get to her.
But I mean, man, it's such a thing, isn't it? Because then, like, all of that, you know, that 4,000 years of tyranny and all of this, and then at the end of it, like, big solutions to big problems. Like, it really, like, it works. It fucking works. It's a horrible thing that's done for a really, really long time, but it fucking works.
And foreshadowing, Jessica kind of has her own terrible purpose as well, where she makes emotional decisions twice that change the whole outcome of the universe.
Oh, yeah. God love her.
And Alia, she might be one of the more tragic characters.
Yeah.
For sure. One of the coolest characters, though.
Oh, in Children of Dune, she's awesome. Although as the David Lynch Dune is the child Alicia Witt, I can't even say what she says in it because it's a spoiler, and that is a reveal I will not spoil.
Yeah.
But it is awesome. And, Dr. Yue, when he's like, Jessica is from a noble house. She has to be. I just don't know where or how or what minor house.
A renegade house.
Yes. And that's the second or third time they've seeded sort of that question, because, the Reverend Mother talking about, was it the eyebrows? She has...
Or the like hairline or something. I don't know.
I thought it was like the eyebrows. Maybe it was the hairline, but she like...
But yeah, of the maternal grandfather that must not be named.
Yes. Very, very interesting that this is this kind of second or third time they've kind of put like that little seed in there of like, where is she from?
And I definitely, on my first reading, on my second even, maybe not, I didn't pick up on this stuff at all. Like, it's one of those things that it's like subtly enough, just kind of like...
If you're speed reading, you'll blow right by it.
Oh yeah, you won't even think about it. You'll be like, oh, maternal grandma, oh, hairline, whatever. You won't think about it. But then like later when all of this is revealed...
Unless you think Princess Irulan is a huge character in this series,
it makes me think
you would be shocked.
The like little blips of stuff that I feel like you only realize after another watch reminds me of the like first couple of times I watched the movie Fight Club, because at the end they show like Tyler Durden, like Brad Pitt's like clip where he just like blips on the screen for a moment at the end, and then like I remember going back and watching it like the second or third time, and then throughout the movie seeing the little blips of him. So I feel like that's what it's like for me rereading this, rereading it, being like, oh, I caught this little blip and that foreshadows this. So I feel kind of bad reading it with Cidnya when, this is her first time reading it, and it's like, am I giving away too much? Because there's some really cool things that happen, like not just in the end of this book, but in the next couple books.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's hard not to comment on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very much.
And you're like, oh, that's the thing that happens in the thing.
It's weird. Every read through, though, I find another character that I think might be the most tragic character. Because I remember, like, for some reason, my first read through of the series, I thought Princess Irulan was one of the more tragic characters, especially by the end of Children of Dune.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, no, not really. Like, she knew what she was getting into.
She's kind of a cunt, though, isn't she, in that book?
Oh, very much. Very, very much.
Yes.
Especially when she has that sit down with Lady Jessica and they're doing the hand gesture, talking to each other, the Bene Gesserit sign language, so that they can't follow what they're saying.
Paul should have let Chani kill her. Chani's immediate reaction when she found out what she did. She was like, I'm going to kill her now.
And then you could kind of say the Tyrant is a tragic character, but...
Absolutely. The most tragic.
Again, though, he knew what he was doing, though.
It doesn't mean it's not a terrible purpose.
Well, and then they subtly hinted his incest, too, in that book.
Do they?
They do. That to keep the bloodline pure with his sister.
Oh. Wow.
Before he had T-Rex arms and, couldn't do anything. Going way too... Jumping 4,000 years in the future. But I think everybody will find their character they gravitate to, or they find their terrible tragedy, because everybody kind of has one. I can't remember. They don't really... The twin, Ganima, they never really talk about her much after. Like, she never really ever reappears.
Yeah, well,
talk about her briefly.
I mean, between the events of, like, the end of Children of Dune and God Emperor, there really is, like, about 4,000 years. So it makes sense that she's not a big part of that narrative anymore.
The book I remember least is Chapter House.
I remember Chapter House. Wait, no, I'm thinking of Heretics. I think the one I remember the least is probably God Emperor, just because it took me 4,000 years to read it.
With his own Bene Gesserit kind of soldiers, the fish speakers.
Mhm.
They're all women.
It
was like a harem anime.
Yeah.
And then there's that offshoot of the Bene Gesserit. What were the names of them? They were the rival ones that like basically got chased out of space.
Yeah. Ah, fuck, I don't remember, man. I remember
We'll have to get to that book at some point.
like in Heretics, obviously I remember like the stuff with Siona. And
yes.
Was it Heretics or Chapter House? It's got to be Heretics that has Miles Tegg.
Oof.
I think it's Heretics.
That
No.
might be. Yeah, it's Heretics.
Is it?
I think it's Heretics.
Are you talking about the Honored?
The Honor Matrix.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to use Google.
Yeah, the Honor Matrix. They were, and then they blended both together. Again, we're going way too fucking far.
Way too far.
Sorry, but like, keep reading this up, and of course, this book keeps seeding stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard as being ahead of we are going, oh, like, I see these things. And again, like the whole fact that the Bene Gesserits were so far ahead of everything that they planned for every fucking thing of like, okay, well, if you end up on this planet, we're going to have this history here. And, you can, use it to your advantage to become one of the people. And how she said that you have to learn the planet. So I guess that's part of their way where they not only learned, they basically were missionaries coming in going, hello, we brought you religion. Here you go.
Yeah, and then again, I think this is in either Heretics or Chapter House where you find essentially like the tomb on Arrakis of that like first Bene Gesserit that was there.
Yes.
Oh man, there's so much in these books. Anyway.
Being really fussy. No, he doesn't want to come up. He's just going to sit at the chair and keep meowing.
Oh, kitties. I have no kitty.
Oh yeah, Jennifer, by the way, we made plans for you.
What's that? Plans within plans within plans?
Yeah.
Yes, because Cidnya said when Syd gets here, she's going to drive up and hang out because she feels that we're all going to be bestest friends.
Yes.
Syd's like, well, Jennifer's going to have to fly out now or have her Gambit and his wife come out.
Yes.
Just get pub subs and get drunk.
That's what must be done. Done. Oh, pub sub.
I know, it's what everybody
right now.
wants.
It's what I want. It's what I need. I'm so hungover.
But is it hungover where you're like, I don't like Taco Bell, but I could eat cinnamon twists and be okay?
I actually love Taco Bell, unironically.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I could eat Taco Bell for like every meal.
Sorry.
Is that your 1 hour alarm?
It's just about,
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think we've dove into a pretty good amount. Was there any BDE that you got to get out of the way that we might have not talked about yet?
I think we mentioned most of it. Thank you for asking.
It's what I'm here for, to make sure you talk about your BDE.
There's that, I got to get it in. There's that whole Irulan quote. Just that whole quote that's like, how do we speak about the Duke? Like,
oh, yeah.
How do you solve a problem like Duke Leto?
I feel like it starts playing like Sarah McLachlan in the background. Building a mystery.
Yeah, and it's like, what is the son but an extension of the father? An extension. And even Paul like describes him as having like a sense of presence, like that's his dad. But even he's like, oh, this guy.
He's like, that's my dad.
He's got that Dragon Ball Z aura. When he walks in the room, they get the little scouter.
Yeah, man, he's over 9,000. He's gonna break the scouter. Just him being like so smart and so deeply aware of all the different facets of this Harkonnen trap. And just kind of like matter-of-factly explaining this to his son, like this like death trap that's waiting for them. He's just like, oh, and this and this. Tipper the Edge we spoke about. We spoke about his description being described by Jessica and other people as just like unreasonably handsome. When he tells Jessica no.
Ooh.
We'll not get into that. And then when Jessica describes him as the Duke is really two men.
Which one do you prefer?
What a guy. I will take any and all.
I'm wondering if they're going to play into that in the movie with Oscar Isaac and have him, be
Well,
the caring.
I don't think he's going to be in the movie much.
Yeah.
Zendaya said she's barely in the movie.
Yeah,
that makes sense with like where they'll probably cut it though.
Yeah.
The first part.
I feel like Duke Leto's going to be in it a lot though. Like,
do you think?
I mean, look how much Duncan we got. I know, like Duncan in the original movie, even the book, he's like talked about a lot, but he's like barely there.
Yeah, but he's Duncan, Idaho.
Well, yeah, but he's the moral.
I mean, you know how you treat a Duncan, Idaho. A second serving? A third serving? More, please?
Please, Dad, I have some more.
Can't get enough of that Idaho if you're in House Atreides.
And he always gets moral, and it gets him in trouble.
Oh, good boy.
Good boy.
Okay, yeah. I think we've covered the extreme masculinity of Duke Leto enough for today. I'll be signing off.
Thank you for coming on, Sid. I know, like, you were like,
Thanks for having me, guys.
You were just like, I can only do an hour. If you guys stay on later, that's fine by me. And I was like, you don't have to come
totally
on if
fine.
you can.
Yeah.
No, I just have a million things to do.
Well, anyway, we always love having you on, and
Thanks
you
for
are a joy and a pleasure, as always.
Oh, you guys figure out what we should read for next week, and then just message me. Does that work?
Got it.
We shall do that. Take care, and is your thing that you were nervous about today, or was that yesterday?
It's today.
You must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
Yeah.
Get it
Pass
done.
over me, through me, turn the inner eye.
There will be only you.
I don't know what it is, but just get it done. You can do it.
Nobody knows what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you for your support.
If it involves you ended up here, like, at least give me a couple of hours notice so I can clean the spare bedroom. Get Radford's toys out of there.
Yeah, don't worry. I wouldn't show up unannounced.
Oh, that would be amusing. It'd be like, get home from work and you're
I?
out on my front porch. Hey, I mean, if you want to come into my work during the day and have them page me, that would be entertaining, especially if you go to the service desk, because someone would be not happy to see you at all. Just saying.
I'll keep that in mind. Okay, gotta go, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
That's fun. Bye.
Bye.
How do I leave?
You could, yeah. So yeah, well, was 4 chapters too much?
I don't think it was too much. Because I just went ahead and marked. Like I was just kind of flipping through. So then I would say like the next almost logical. I don't know what chapters it is. Let me see how many chapters. I ended at page 170 as like the next marker. And it looks like that's because the next chapter is really short.
Okay.
So 2. I would say, okay, so yeah, the 4 chapters would end on page 170, and I think that would be reasonable.
Okay. So that would be 9 through 12.
Yeah.
170.
It might be 9 through 13.
Sorry, everybody. I know this is super entertaining. Yeah, that would be 9 through 13.
Okay.
So...
That might be 9 through 14, actually. So maybe if we do to page 166, because then that's 60 pages.
That's a short boy.
Yeah.
Good God. All right.
Let's just go the extra mile. Let's just go the extra mile.
Okay, so
9 through 13. 9 through 14.
Okay.
I'll count it again. It'll basically be page 170 that we stop.
Okay, 106 through 170. Okay, well,
cool.
That we got that down. Thank you everybody who tuned in and tuned out. This was a weird episode.
It was, but I'm sure the next episode will be much better.
Yeah,
I think that a lot more happens in the next couple chapters.
Also, Cidnya, what happened with her not getting in, so we kind of lost her take, but she had some really good points of just what we talked about. So, using
and gave a lot for us to think about.
Yes. So thank you, and it's gonna be a busy week this week. Saturday, our weekly show. Sunday, the Black Monday Murders Book Club with Gambit, and then Monday we're back again for the Dune over, and I have a lot of reading to do.
You do.
So take care, everybody. So long. Farewell. Goodbye.
Bye.